All right, folks. So I wanted to make this video because this addresses an issue that I see out there. One of the issues I see is that people don't understand kind of how to prioritize their time when they're looking for a job. Hence, daily habits to start your data career. Now, maybe the very start of your data career, maybe you've never had a data analytics job, maybe you're pivoting from something else, maybe you're between jobs, or maybe you're just realizing things are getting a bit stagnant and maybe you're going to need to move on to something. So this should be useful knowledge to anybody in any stage of their career. If you're not doing this stuff already, highly recommend that you start as soon as possible. So without further ado, let's crack on and get into it. Bit of an intro. I'm going to try and figure out how to say this nicely. I run into a ton of people in the job market who I honestly question how they spend their time. And part of it is that sort of balance between are you productive or are you busy? Because it's kind of easy to be busy without really being productive. And you may have the best of intentions. It may not be just kind of, hamster on the wheel, doing the thing that feels comfortable. You might think you're doing the right thing. A lot of people out there seem to think that, going back and forth, doing courses, getting certs, piling up, coding languages and whatnot, but burying themselves in the skill stack avalanche, they think that's the way forward. Awesome. I mean, if that's what you think, great. I just see a lot of people trying that tactic and failing. And what I notice is there's a lot of people out there that they'll hoist the green flag, the open to work, and they'll say, I'm desperately looking for a job, spending all my time job searching, and this is my thing. This is what I'm doing. But then you look at their output and you just wonder, it's like you don't seem to be getting anything done. And so without being a jerk about it, sometimes when I counsel or coach these people, it's my question is like, what do you spend your time on? So quick disclaimer, I don't know your situation. The empirical you, whoever's watching this video. Hopefully that's somebody. I don't know your situation. I do know I've had clients before where they've got kids. They're full-time home care providers for kids or even adults. Um, they may have a Joe job, something that they're doing to make ends meet. They're waiting tables or they're stocking groceries or something like that. Because it just, the bills got to get paid. And so you may not have all day every day to just grind on the job hunt. I get it. I really do. The bottom line to me is you've got to decide how much time you have. If you're working a day job or if you're taking care of your kids or you're doing whatever, do you have an hour a day to devote to your job search? Because if you do, I would say that these habits that I'm about to talk about are maybe the best use of your time. So I see a lot of people online talking about they can't find a job, they're doing everything they can. You send them a LinkedIn message and they don't answer it until 3 days later. I get it, not everybody's a LinkedIn person, but if you're grinding every day trying to find a job and you don't respond to people that are trying to help you to find a job, what what would you say you're doing with your time? Anyway, don't answer that. You can curse me out all you want. Tell me in the comments that I'm a jerk, but that's fine. So quick story of my own. Once upon a time, I flunked out of Ohio U. I didn't technically flunk out. They didn't make me leave, but they weren't crying too much when I did. Um, so anyway, I left Ohio U and I went and I enlisted in the Marine Corps. I found college very challenging the first time around. Why? Because I was just goofing off all the time and playing video games and going and getting drunk. So I enlisted in the Marine Corps 4 years later. I kind of got back to getting after my education, and I got myself into a program where my final year of my bachelor's degree, I could go full time at University of Maryland. I found that year to be tremendously easy. I pulled straight A's and I wasn't even trying that hard. And when people ask me, what's your secret? I'm not saying, I'm some sort of genius or that, whoa, look at me, I got straight A's. Not at all. When people ask me how I did it, my answer was I treated it like my job. So I was used to going to work every day as a Marine, being at work at 7:30, leaving at 4:30, 5 o'clock, whenever. And I took that same approach to college, right? And as a result, I was wildly successful. And then later on, when I was retiring from the Marine Corps and I started doing like a full-time job hunt, what did I do? I treated that job hunt like a job. And that's all I did all day. And as a result, once again, I was wildly successful. It's amazing how much you can get done when you just do it all day, every day. So to you that if you are fully unemployed, my question to you, if you're grinding, 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 you can't make any headway, my question is why? And if you're using the same tactic over and over again, I would suggest that that's not a good strategy. Okay, so daily habits, super duper powerful. The things that you do every day, these are tremendously powerful. A lot of the things I'm going to talk about today, stuff like resumes, stuff like your LinkedIn profile, people tend to take a kind of one-shot approach to it. And I would say that that's the wrong way to go after it. If you think about it, if you were going to get good at like playing the guitar, would you ever sit there and say, hey, I'm just going to sit down, I'm going to practice the guitar for 8 hours without stopping. And then once it's done, I'm going to be done with the guitar. I'm going to be an awesome guitar maestro. You would never think that. You would never think that like, when you're going out in the like the dating scene, like, yeah, I'm gonna go meet this girl. I'm gonna date her for like 8 straight hours, and at the end of the day, we're gonna be married. I mean, there's some reality shows like that, but it doesn't seem like that's a winning formula. I mean, it's kind of assumed most of the things in life, you got to kind of stay at it, right? You got to ask a girl out on a few dates before she's gonna fall in love with you, unless your game is far better than mine. Anyway, let's get off of that topic. Um, Daily habits are powerful. The way that we learn and perfect skills is by practicing day in, day out. So I don't understand why people have this expectation on job skills that they're going to be able to perfect them in like one giant, hours long marathon when we literally don't do that for anything else. Even a marathon, like you're training day in, day out for months and months and months to run a marathon, right? See, the metaphor just works on many different levels. So the job hunt requires discipline and focus, daily actions on these things. And I get the feeling that there are a lot of people out there that aren't, they're going at it in a like grind hard, let me crush myself on the altar of job search rather than having a disciplined and focused and kind of steady approach to it. And so you got to ask yourself, are you devoting the time required to job hunt skills? I think that in tech, we tend to completely disregard the amount of skill it takes just to find a job. Not even totally casting aside the amount of skill it takes to qualify for a job in data analytics. Other people have that covered, and I can recommend a couple if you're looking for a good technical boot camp. But I don't deal with that stuff. I deal with career skills. And data people, people in tech in general, we tend to just totally disregard this. It's a mistake. And there are so many people out there in tech that are unemployed today because they disregard the time and energy required on career skills. Treat your job search like a job. If you've got 1 hour a day to do it, or if you've got 10 hours a day to do it, devote that time to it. The more time you've got for it, the better you're going to be. And then the last point is do not panic. Now I talk to a lot of people and I ask them like, hey, what's your time frame for finding a job? And the answer is like yesterday. I needed it 5 minutes ago. Okay, I got it. I'm sympathetic. Absolutely. Money's getting tight. Bills are piling up. I understand. Let's just go down a quick exercise here. Let's just say best case scenario, you're firing applications today, and that next application that you press send on, that's the one. That is eventually going to be the job that saves you, pays all your bills. Okay. You send the application today. There's an application window. It could end today, but more than likely it doesn't. So you send in your application, the application window is open for a week or two, however long, but the application window closes, and then they take a good hard look at all of the pile of resumes that came in. So you're a week or two down the road now. They take all those resumes, they sift through them, they figure out who's qualified, they phone screen those that are qualified. So now you're getting a phone screen. There's a round of phone screens. It doesn't happen instantaneously. There are actual humans that have to call you in most cases. So round of phone screens maybe lasts another week. Then they take the results of the phone screen, they get a list of recommendations, and they say, we're going to bring in 10 or 15 people in for an interview. Now there's a round of interviews, one at a minimum. So think another week, another maybe 2 weeks to get through all of those interviews. If there's a multi-round interview stage, all bets are off. That could be several weeks. So best case scenario, application today could have you employed maybe like offer in hand in a month. That's that's probably pretty optimistic. You may or may not start right away, but let's say you do, best case scenario. So offer in hand on a Friday, Monday morning, you start work. Then how long does it take to actually get paid for that work? Probably a minimum of 2 weeks. So already, I mean, we are absolute pie in the sky, best case scenario. 6 weeks from now, you're going to get a paycheck from that job for which you apply today. All right. So I tell you that to tell you this. Don't panic. You have time to perfect your process, and that is what I recommend. Those that panic, those that say, I've got to get money right away, and they just start firing like a machine gun, your process is flawed. And if your process is flawed, your outcome is also going to be flawed. So you're going to wind up panicking and accepting a job that's garbage. It's beneath you, or it's a scam, or it's some multi-level marketing, some data entry, or something like that. Okay. Now you may be at that phase where you got to take that, in which case all bets are off. But I would say follow this process, and you're going to be good. All right. Okay. So don't panic. And that brings us to our first daily habit. And that daily habit is networking. Now, at this point, you might be saying, yeah, no kidding. Let me turn this video off because Dork just told me to network. Yeah, I get it. Do you? Um, I challenge people's assumptions when they say, yeah, I get the networking piece. Most people do not. And so let me tell you a couple of just different perspectives on the networking game that I would ask you to consider. First of all, when you're networking, is it planned? Is it strategic? Do you have some kind of target or KPIs or metrics or something by which you measure your networking game other than just LinkedIn saying you got this many connections and followers? I would say that that's important. And the reason why is because networking is a very steep funnel. And we'll talk about this. It's a numbers game, and you got to keep firing out there and getting new connections in order to keep building your network. And where that starts is, do you have a daily target? Do you have some time budgeted for networking today, tomorrow, and every day, where you say, I am going to send out X number of connection requests every stinking day in order to build my network? For most people, the answer is no. They do this sort of haphazardly. It's when they got a spare moment or something, they find somebody interesting, fire a connection request, hope for the best. It's not it's not strategic. It's not planned. It's just sort of, I'm here, so I'm doing the thing. So I would suggest that you have some sort of daily target or some sort of goal number of connections you want to send out. Now, I got a bunch of numbers on the screen here. Let's talk these through. I told you, steep funnel, right? What I recommend for that daily target is a good round number is 10 requests per day. If you send 10 connections per day, that's going to do two things. Number one, some of them are going to say yes. So you're going to have kind of a steady stream of a handful of people per day coming into your network. That's not overwhelming. You can communicate with a handful of people per day. And as you'll see, Not all of them are going to take up a ton of your time, but 10 per day is a pretty good number. The other thing is on the high end, 10 per day is going to keep you in the good graces of the LinkedIn algorithm. Once you start getting up into 20, 25, 30 per day, once you start getting over like 100 requests per week, you run the risk of going into what people jokingly call LinkedIn jail. And LinkedIn jail means your account is throttled. Nobody can find you, won't pop up on other people's searches. It's a bad thing to have happen. And you won't get any warning either. It's kind of one of those secretive social media things. You get some people call it shadow banned, but yeah, LinkedIn jail. You want to stay out of it. 10 requests per day is a pretty safe number as if you keep consistent with it. Under 100 per week for sure, but about 10 per day is a good average. Let's talk about the numbers here. Okay, so let's say we go 10 days, 10 requests per day for a grand total of 100. Cool. We sent out 100 requests. How many how many yeses are we likely to get? How many connections are we likely to get? That depends on a lot of things. We won't get into the nuances, how big of an influencer you are, whether or not they think they can gain something from you, whether or not you sent them a message. If you have LinkedIn Premium, you can send messages with all your connection requests, and that is what I recommend. LinkedIn Premium's not terribly expensive. You know, obviously your budget is your budget. But if you have LinkedIn Premium, you can send a message with all those requests. Recommend that. If not, you only get 5 per month. So of that 100, you'd have to really decide which ones you absolutely care about. But okay, 10 days, 100 requests. Let's say 50 of them say yes. That's a pretty good hit rate. 50%, that's respectable. Okay, so you got 50 new connections. Congrats. Of those 50, if you haven't sent them an intro message, I highly recommend sending them a message as soon as they agree to connect. Don't get cagey about it. Don't treat it like the dating scene. You know, you got to wait 6 days to, you know, in the movie thing. Anyway, just send them a message right afterwards. Hey, thanks for the connection. Would have sent a message, but I don't have LinkedIn Premium. You know, here's what I'm in the job market for, et cetera, et cetera. Most of it can be cut and paste. I would have at least one personal touch point in there, but that's a whole different topic for a different time. Okay, 50 connections. 25 of them are going to answer your message. Whatever your initial message is, probably about half of them on average are going to say anything in response to your message. The rest of them are just going to accept the connection, archive, or they get off LinkedIn for another 6 months or whatever. So out of the 100 connection requests, you got 25, at least some kind of conversation going. Of those 25, ballpark figure, 10 of them are going to turn into a real conversation. So it'll go beyond the likewise or great to connect or nice to meet you, you know, just the sort of mundane greetings. 10 people will get into what I would call an actual conversation, you know, handful of messages back and forth, some sort of mutual interest. Of those 10, generally half or less are going to turn into a real conversation like, hey, let's move this off of LinkedIn. Let's have a Zoom chat. Let's have a networking meeting. Let's, you know, do you know anyone at this company where you're actually doing something productive? So look at that funnel as that drops down. 100 connection requests, and you're at best probably going to get 5% of those requests to turn into anything that can benefit you. And keep in mind, this is 10 days worth. So in 10 days, you're getting 3 to 5, you're getting one real productive connection per 2 or 3 days. That's not really too difficult to maintain at all. But just keep in mind, you got to shoot 100 paper airplanes downrange to get even a handful of people that might do you some benefit. Okay, so that's when you understand that, that's why you've got to keep at this. Okay, a network does not make itself. Now, the thing that people always say about networking, other than your network is your net worth, which is totally stupid. I hate that expression. But your network isn't, you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I agree with that, sort of. It's not what you know, it's who you know. I mean, if the people you know all live in like the local trailer park, well, all right. So obviously who you know, like someone that's an actual decision maker. But it's not just who you know, it's who knows you and why. Okay. well, off-color example, but everybody knows the Hawk Tuah girl, right? But the question is, why do you know her? Okay, when you think about why you know certain like kind of social media grubby celebrities, you're not going to be offering those people a job. So there are ways to get known that you don't want any part of. It's who knows you and why. Why is it not who you know? Because if it's who I know and I am the job seeker, I am the one coming to them saying, "Hey, remember me? We met at that convention." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, sort of." You're playing from behind there. You're trying to make up a 3-1 deficit in the NBA Finals. It's who knows you and why. If people know you and they know you for some legitimate professional thing, not some viral TikTok video, if they know your professional caliber, then when there's a job opening, the first name that comes to mind is going to be Albert Bellamy or Abe Diaz or whoever. Okay. If your name comes to mind and they say a job pops up and they say we need an Alteryx expert. I know this guy Albert Bellamy. I see his stuff all the time on LinkedIn. Let's send him a message. You win. And you don't even have to put any effort into it beyond the next daily habit that we're going to talk about. So how do you get people to know you? That is a wonderful question. Other than networking, which is a one-to-one game, which we'll talk about, the next daily habit that I want you to get into is content creation. Now, I can just hear half of the audience throwing up into their mouths a little bit. Notice I did not say you need to become an influencer. Notice I did not say you've got to have a viral post. I didn't say you need to publish on multiple platforms. It's fine. I recommend LinkedIn. If you want to post on Facebook and TikTok as well, knock yourselves out. However, content creation is networking on steroids. Think about it. Networking is, at best, it's a one-to-one thing, right? So I have a connection with one person. I send them a message to try and leverage that connection. Hey, I see there's a job open at your company. I'm interested in it. Can we maybe get on a call? And then I'm talking to them one-on-one. Now that's great because it's totally personal. They're not sitting there thinking I'm talking to a room full of people. I'm only talking to them. However, keep in mind the steep funnel. You got to hit up 100 people. You've got to go scout out, find, and hit up 100 people in order to get, at best, 5 productive connections. And that's on the high side. So think about having to scout out 100 likely prospects to get maybe 5 good contacts and then having to engage those 5 one-on-one. It's a time-intensive thing. Networking cannot be done on the cheap. It really can't. Content creation, however, also can't be done on the cheap. However, it is a one-to-many networking exercise. And so this is why I say, and I'll give you an example real quick, networking and content creation, they are symbiotic. They depend on each other greatly. One without the other is greatly reduced in effectiveness. Content creation is a one-to-many networking exercise. If I put out a piece of great content, many people can see it and know me for that content. Remember, it's not who you know, it's who knows you and why. If they know you for great content that shows your expertise in some professional subject area, you are likely to be the first name that comes to mind when they have a job opening for that particular niche. Okay, so story time. We had a challenge once upon a time called LinkedIn hard mode. Networking on steroids, one to many. Yes, LinkedIn hard mode, right there. There's the hashtag. Now, I ran LinkedIn hard mode. I invented it. I ran it, I believe, 7 times. We wound up stopping it because it was just a ton of work and it wasn't making me any money and I was just busy. Anyway, but what LinkedIn hard mode taught me was originally it was a pure content creation exercise. And it was 30 days, create 1 piece of content per day, original content. This was in the days before AI, so it was a whole lot easier to tell what was original and what wasn't. But the thing was, when we started it out, it was content creation without networking. And I was noticing that a lot of people were kind of flaming out. They were just, tree falling in the forest. They would create 30 days worth of content and get like almost no reaction from it. And what I realized was when I had kind of originally blown up on LinkedIn, I was doing both at the same time. So we tried to work some networking elements into the challenge. Eh, Mixed results. There was no real way to enforce it. Not that it was an enforcing thing anyway. They weren't paying any money. So it was just kind of, the whole thing was just kind of on your honor. But what that taught me was networking and content creation are best when done in tandem, like at the same time. So networking without content is limited. Okay. Now you can build a great network without producing content. It's very kind of time intensive. It's very energy intensive. Content without networking is borderline worthless. Now, I will never say that content creation is worthless, point blank. It's not. Content creation without a network can be very kind of self-satisfying and self-soothing because there's kind of a gut check involved in taking your work and putting it out in the street, putting it out in public for public consumption, criticism. But unless you want to be the tree falling in the forest, unless you want to just sit there and produce content without anyone ever seeing it, without it ever having any impact beyond yourself, you've got to continue expanding your network. Why? Because your new connections see your content first, and your new connections generally are very excited to have met this new person who's awesome and puts out all this content, and they want to reinforce that. So as you boost your network, you up your content quality and quantity, and it's a mutually beneficial thing. Okay. Symbiotic relationship, like I said. Now, there's a whole lot of influencers out there that will tell you, oh, it's quality over quantity. The days of daily content creation are over. You want to put out X number of posts per week. I will say that I agree with that to a certain point. You don't want to post just to post. And that's another reason why I don't run a 30-day content challenge anymore, because people were posting just to post. And I didn't necessarily want to encourage that. Quality over quantity, yes, but quantity still counts. I do know influencers, viral people out there that will agonize over like one piece of video content for like 2 weeks, and they put it out and it blows up huge, and then you hear nothing from them for a month because they're working on the next piece of content. I don't recommend that. There is something to consistency. There is something to the cadence and the algorithm kind of recognizing you as a consistent content creator. I encourage you to make the best posts you can at least 3 times a week. At least 3 times a week. You can go up to 5. You can do daily content. You can do twice daily content. That gets a bit more technical and involved, but yeah, definitely make quality content. Your content should be focused on your audience and on bringing value to them. Whole different topic for a whole different time. I got videos on that too. But the last question here that people often ask is, but Albert, what should I post? That is a great question. I answer that. If you want to join my free LinkedIn group called Data Career Academy, go search it up. I may put a link in the comments or in the description. But just as an example, you can post questions about your data knowledge search, like what should I do next, or what thing should I study, or whatever. Make polls like that. You can positive content only about your job search. No sour grapes, no butthurt, no sarcasm, none of that. Positive content only. Be like Thumper. If you can't say nothing nice, don't say nothing at all. Something nice. Anyway, learnings, things that you're learning, you're upskilling. We'll talk about that here in a moment, and different milestones that you pass. So birthday, or I just got 500 followers on LinkedIn, or things like that. Just had a viral reel on TikTok. They don't have reels on TikTok. Anyway, viral video on TikTok, I guess. But yeah, all of those things, good things to post. But keep it job search oriented. Okay. Here's one that kind of gets a bad rap. And this is one that people are like, I'll just burn hot for a day and do this whole thing. This is a daily habit. Your public facelift. Now, you might be a little confused about it. What is your public face? I think this might just be a Bellamy term, honestly. So I'm sort of reveling in the confusion here. Okay. These are things that you want to do daily. Your public face as I see it. Do, 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 do. Of course, that's not the slide. Son of a. Okay. I'm just going to back off these sub bullets. We'll just talk through it. This actually happened on an earlier take. And then I thought I fixed this slide, and I guess I fixed a different one. Oh, well. Your public face are your public facing nodes or touch points, right? So what are we talking about at a minimum? Your resume, your LinkedIn profile, other job site profiles, Indeed, Glassdoor, whatever else you use, Monster, is that still a thing? Anyway, your portfolio. If you have a data portfolio, if you have your own website, if you have a GitHub, if you have a Tableau public, here's the one that gets people. If you have unprofessional social media, and I don't mean unprofessional like you've got pictures of yourself like drunk on Mardi Gras. Don't recommend that. But I'm talking about non-professionally related social media. So if you have a Facebook page that is under your name, Albert Bellamy, Facebook. If I can go on X and search your name and find a profile, if I can go on Blue Sky, if I can go on TikTok, any of these other things, Snapchat, if it is open to the public, it is a public face, a public facing node or touch point. Okay. So your intent does not matter. If you intend for only your LinkedIn profile and your GitHub and your portfolio site to be public facing, but any knucklehead can go search your name on these other platforms and your profile pops right up. And then what do they see? You're drunk at Mardi Gras and acting the fool. Over on X or Blue Sky, you're ranting about politics. You get it. Okay. TikTok, you're doing whatever, funny dances from video games. Unprofessional social media. If it is attributable to you, if it is under your name and it is clearly your face, if you go to my Instagram account, it is under major data, which everybody knows is me, and it's pictures of me. If there's a picture of me getting hammered at Mardi Gras, I can't sit there and say, no, that ain't me. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. So be mindful of all of that. Your public facing nodes. Okay, enough on that. What do you need to do with those? The instinct is, I got to fix my resume. Let me sit down for 4 hours and bang this thing out. I got to fix my LinkedIn profile. Let me sit down for a whole Saturday and fix the darn thing. It is a daily habit, my friends, daily habit. Now, you don't have to work on your resume every day for 10 minutes or a half hour. You don't have to work on your LinkedIn profile every day, but you have to have part of I would recommend, don't have to, I would recommend that part of your daily routine is work on this public face. So tweak your resume, tailor your resume to a particular job, get on LinkedIn and build out some more accomplishments from a job where maybe it's a little lean on there and it's not searchable. You revise your headline, you improve the search engine optimization of your about section, you tidy up or modernize your skills profile. All of those things, you got a project that's not on there, put it on your LinkedIn. GitHub, get on GitHub every day, do a commit every day of something, do some SQL, do an Alteryx challenge or something, load it up on GitHub. That way, if somebody goes to your GitHub, they can see all those pretty little green squares that show you're a serious tech professional. You're doing the code. You're doing SQL queries. You're doing something. All right. All of these things count. If you have your Tableau Public listed on your resume and somebody goes to your Tableau Public and it looks like chewed oatmeal and it's nothing but like homework assignments from Alex Freeberg videos from 5 years ago, that's not too impressive. You want all of your public facing nodes to be in alignment and to be telling the same story about you, that you are a professional. All right. So yeah, sorry that slide didn't pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. Okay. So that brings us to number 4, lifelong learning. No kidding. Everybody knows We're in tech, folks. You got to be a lifelong learner. Yeah, we get it. However, let me put the SMART on here. For those of you that know what SMART goals are, awesome. For those of you that don't, less awesome, but you can look that up some other time. Okay. I'm not here to teach you about SMART goals. What I will say is there are two elements of SMART goals that are super important, and I'll talk to you about them. Tech always has to upskill. It never ends. I've had the same job for the last 3 years. I upskill every day, and I'm upskilling on Alteryx, and I'm upskilling on AWS and Azure and LLMs and every dang thing. Okay, so it's you can drown a little bit in it, but you got to focus. SMART goals. The most important part of the SMART goals, and is a 5-letter acronym, are the S and the T. What do the S and the T stand for? The S is specific. Why is this important? We got a problem out there with data analysts that get stuck in what we call tutorial hell. Stumbled out of that a bit. Tutorial hell. What that means is they sit there and they order one Udemy class after another, and maybe they complete them, maybe they don't. But in the end, it doesn't necessarily really matter because all they're doing is kind of spinning the hamster wheel. When they get done with that latest whiz-bang SQL course, they don't know any more SQL than when they started. Why? Because they haven't applied it. They're just doing the course to feel busy. Remember at the start when I said, are you busy or are you effective? It's very easy to get busy with lifelong learning and have zero effectiveness because you take courses and by the end of it, you don't remember what you studied. Or a month later, you don't remember any of the concepts because you didn't apply them. Okay, so SMART goals, the S, you need to be specific. And by specific, I mean there needs to be a specific outcome from that goal. So when you upskill, your upskill is not, well, I should learn Python. What does learn Python mean? At what point in your Python journey do you say, I have learned Python? Do you think, I mean, tech experts, people that use Python every day, do they sit there and say, oh, I'm the world's greatest at Python? Absolutely not. No chance. That Dunning-Kruger curve goes up and then it goes down and it stays down for a long time. All right. So most of those people that have learned that stuff, quote unquote, they only know how much they don't know. Now they do know a lot of stuff, but that just makes you more cognizant of where your gaps are. So specific, what is your goal? This is a reason why I love certifications, industry standard certifications. A lot of people hate on these. I don't. And the reason why is I want to have something tangible that shows that I had to demonstrate knowledge. When you have an industry standard certification, like an Alteryx certification, like a Microsoft certification, like a Salesforce or Tableau certification, you had to take a test on that. That means you had to sit there and prove that you know that stuff. It's not just clickety click to the end, play the last video and print your certificate like on Udemy or edX or one of these other platforms. Now there are some testable like proctored courses on there. I get it. But specific. Make the outcome specific and actual tangible goal. Can you show it on LinkedIn? Because if it's not on LinkedIn, did it even really happen? And then the T is time bound. Give yourself a deadline. Deadlines are powerful. So powerful. And the thing that I want you to do with that deadline is I want you to announce it in public. Commit to it. Give yourself that sting of potential failure. Okay, I know that's a bad word. I know nobody likes to say that. And no, there's a carrot and a stick. They're both good motivators. Like you want a reward for the end. Yes, that's the certification, right? The stick is, man, if I tell people I'm gonna earn the Tableau desktop certificate in 30 days, 30 days go by, somebody's gonna be there going, wait, didn't this doofus just tell us he was gonna do this thing and now he's ghosting us, he's all quiet. Okay. I've had that happen. I've called my shot before and had it be like I didn't make it. And I had to go out there and own up to it. Okay. And that's a tough thing to swallow. So announce your deadline in public. Tell people what your goal is. that makes it that much more powerful than just holding it in your head. And then when when life happens and you're like, well, you can just pretend you never promised yourself that. All right. Maybe you have iron discipline. I don't know. I don't. 24 years in the Marine Corps. I definitely don't. I love 30-day challenges. Why? Because you can burn hot for a month and you can be consistent, like an hour a day for a month. I'm going to study Alteryx. I'm going to study Tableau. I'm going to study SQL. I'm going to study whatever. And then at the end of it, there's something measurable you can accomplish. Most platforms have like entry level certifications now. Some of them are like comically easy. Like you can go in there and get like the lowest level, like Oracle SQL certification. You sit through like 4 hours of classes and you can get that one. Some of our Alteryx ones they're kind of goofy. They're super duper easy. But the kind of mid-level ones, so like Alteryx Designer Core, I did a challenge where I took some people from zero to hero and they got that thing in 30 days. It can be done. Okay. And most tech platforms have a certification at that level where if you burn hot for a month and you're of average or good intelligence, you should be able to get it. Okay. But that's great. Specific time bound, 30-day challenge. I am going to earn the Alteryx Designer Core certification 30 days from today. Go. And then you document your journey. And what's that go back to? Now you got content created. Easy, right? All these things are symbiotic, folks. Systems, wheels within wheels. Okay. You can cram a lot of learning into 30 days. And I highly recommend you read the book. Now, it's not part of this video, but I highly recommend you read the book Ultra Learning because it talks all about that. And I love that one. All right. We are down to the last one at long last. The job process research. And of course, my bullets didn't animate on this one. Anyway, job process research. I want you to become good. Now, we've talked about your skills so far, right? So your skill of networking, your skill of content creation. These are you. Now, these are career skills. They're not tech skills, but your career skills. Now I want you to get good at the process. And so in a meta way, we're kind of stepping, not meta the company, but just, in a kind of in an inception kind of way, we're stepping back and we're looking at ourselves doing the process. I want you to become good at the art and science of getting a job. And that's what I talk about. Don't panic. Examine your process and improve that. Generally, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If you stop and look at your process and put into place a good plan, the end result is going to be much better than if you just went straight into it and said, momentum is everything. Kind of, but not really. Okay. So job process research, again, and those are not the bullets for that. Man, I really funded this slide deck. Okay. So job process research, ignore these bullets here. Yeah. So basically what I want you to do, I want you to become a student of the job getting game. All right. And what that's going to entail is you don't have to read all of these books. I do have another recent video where I talk about the 9 books that I recommend reading for your data job journey. And I won't talk about all 9 of them here. However, these are 4 of the 9. Let me get them right there. Okay. But I recommend them in order. I recommend, first of all, here, Reverse the Search by Madeline Mann. That's talking all about the job search, the process, how you need to approach it. It is different than the conventional wisdom. I won't give away all of Madeline's secrets. You should definitely buy the book. But you need that, okay? Let me just click to the next slide because that slide's useless. Can't believe I screwed that up. I'm usually so good at PowerPoint. Oh, well. So other ones that I recommend, 20-minute networking meeting. It's great. Ace the data science interview. You get it. Go watch the other video and we'll talk about those. However, I recommend that. I recommend that you become a student of the job game here. I think I've got my outline. There we go. Okay. Let's just look at this. This is so janky. There we go. Okay, job process research. What I was going to talk about was, hey, Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is not the definition of insanity. Not at all. Okay. Also, Einstein never said that, or if he did, there's no record of it. It sounded witty and cool, and somebody attributed to Einstein because then if Einstein said it, then people will pay attention to it. But you should pay attention to it just because it makes sense. All right. But just remember that when someone says Einstein said the definition of insanity, nope, never did. Um, anyway, it's just dumb, right? So when you look at it, I talk to people that are like, I've been out of work for a year. Okay, what have you been doing? Oh, just applying to jobs. Okay. Are you doing anything different this month than you did last month? Oh, just grinding harder. Why? And I've got a whole series of videos talking about what kind of data analyst are you if you can't analyze your own job search. But anyway, people get really mad about that. Um, but just remember, you want to become process driven. We're data analysts. We improve our processes. You don't, here's my example. You don't sit here and count on an abacus anymore. When I tell you to make a spreadsheet, you're not booting up Lotus 1, 2, 3. We use modern processes. When there's a better process, we adopt it. Aren't we all using AI for something now? I know I am. So why would you stick with an outdated or proven like flawed job process? If your job process doesn't work in January, guess what? If you do it even harder, like Michael Scott in February, it's still not going to work. You're just going to be more exhausted. Don't do that. Fix the process. I'm begging you, people. This is my begging voice. Fix the process. Okay? Read about the job search, read about the mindset, follow great content creators. Now, here's what I recommend, especially when you're in that kind of panic mode where you're hunting for a job, it's not working out for you, and the bills are starting to pile up. It can become very easy to get overwhelmed. Here's one recommendation that I suggest to avoid overwhelm. Pick your Mount Rushmore of job content creators. I've recommended a few here. Madeline Mann is one that I would go to every time, 6 days a week and twice on Sunday. Dustin Shimmick. Dustin Shimmick puts out free job-related content all the time. Everything he puts out is of value. Every Friday, he puts out a list of tons of jobs, every job that people send him that's available. He puts out a list of jobs. How do you not love that? Most of them are remote. Dustin's just must follow. Nick Singh. Nick Singh, who wrote Ace the Data Science Interview. He's been a little off his content game lately, but he's getting back on the horse. Mount Rushmore, highly recommend. And Alex Freberg. You can follow him on like 6 different platforms now. Obviously, YouTube, you can go back and plumb the depths of his years of, and thousands of hours of content. 10 out of 10 do recommend Mount Rushmore. Okay. But pick your 4 or 5, but make it a small number. And just follow those people. They should be prolific content creators. They should be people with a good library of content that you can go back through. If I'm on there, awesome. I'm honored. I don't measure up to those 4 particularly well, but if you like me, good. But focus on them. Don't get distracted by noise. Pick your 4, kind of unfollow or mute or just sort of disregard the rest. I won't be hurt if you mute or disregard me, but that's what I recommend. I'm concerned with you, people. Concerned with you and your bandwidth and your conserve your mind bullets. Okay. So the question is now, how much time do I spend? How much time do I spend? Let me get my slideshow back here. Okay, how much time? My question is, how much time do you have? How much time can you afford? Okay, and that's why I ask people, hey, what's your time frame for getting a job? If you say yesterday, then okay, it's not realistic, is it? Because the job you apply for today, you might get paid in 6 weeks. Probably more likely like 2 or 3 months. So how much time do you have, and how much time do you have per day to budget for this? Now, I would say that most job seekers, that's the problem that I have with them. All right. They're out there on Monday. They put out the green banner post and they say, still out of work after 6 months. Times are getting tough. I don't mean to make fun. I'm just saying, like, they have that heart-wrenching panic post. Some people are like, my kids aren't eating. I'm like, God. And so I sent him a message like, hey, saw your post. How can I help? That's on Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They finally answer. And they say, oh, I've been super busy. Okay. I don't mean to be a jerk. What's super busy with what? Because on Monday, you were saying you were in dire straits and you were like begging for the LinkedInosphere to help you. All right. So again, not trying to be insensitive, people. I get it. Okay. And I understand your story is unique and different. And the stressors that you're under, I don't know them unless you want to tell me about them. However, what I would say is you should have a sense of urgency, not panic about your job search. At a bare minimum, you should probably be checking LinkedIn messages daily. Honestly, if I was hurting for a job, I'd be checking them several times a day because somebody might be out there trying to help you. Okay. So sense of urgency, not a sense of panic. You need to be process driven and improve your process, but don't freak out. Just be there, be mindful, be visible. Okay. Okay. So wrapping all this up, 30 days. I'm going to go ahead and assume that if you're still listening here, better part of an hour. I meant to keep this to a half hour. I really did. If you're still listening to this video, I'm going to go ahead and assume that some or all of these 5 things you are currently spending none time on. Or if you are spending any time on them, you're doing the, hard blast, like spend a whole night on my resume, spend a whole day on my LinkedIn profile. Allow me to suggest that that is an inefficient approach, that you should be doing daily effort on each of these. The question is how much? Let me tell you the bare minimum. And I told you I love 30-day challenges. I do miss LinkedIn hard mode. All my LinkedIn hard mode people, what up? I know some of them still listen to the YouTube channel. So, but if you go for 30 days and take your current 0 amount of time that you're spending on these or sort of sporadic, like once a week networking time, and make this a daily thing. Every day you commit to 10 minutes. Okay. Didn't mean to click that bullet yet. You commit to 10 minutes for each of these 5 things. What does that add up to? Let's build in a little friction, a little switching time. It's about an hour. Every day you say, I'm going to spend 10 minutes networking. I'm going to spend 10 minutes on content creation, like just write a post for the next day or maybe start a draft for 2 days hence. I'm going to spend 10 minutes on, what was next? Public face. Okay, so 10 minutes sprucing up my LinkedIn profile today, maybe 10 minutes on resume tomorrow, 10 minutes on GitHub the next day. If you spent 10 minutes on smart lifelong learning, you're working towards that next, that tech upskill, but it's a specific certification that you're working towards. Now, my guess is you're going to spend more than that because tech people tend to spend more than the minimum amount of time working on tech skills, especially if they're out of work. But I would say, if you're spending hours a day on that, you can spare some of that for job skills. But make it process driven, make it specific. And you spend 10 minutes a day on the job hunt. Read one of these books. Go watch an Alex Freiberg YouTube video about interviews or resume writing or something like that. Go watch one of mine. Why not? Most of my videos are longer than 10 minutes. But anyway, if you did that for 30 days, if you spent 1 hour a day on these 5 things every day for 30 days, I guarantee you will see massive results. Now, can I guarantee you'll get a job? No, because we haven't talked about anything like, technical skills, or we haven't talked about interview. We haven't, none of that stuff. There's a whole other arena of stuff like that. But you will see massive results as far as getting somebody to respond to you in the job search, because what you're going to see is After 30 days, you're going to have between 10 and 20, if you follow the posting cadence that I recommended, 10 and 20 pieces of evergreen content. You can repost those as you like. You can reference those. You can use those for like blog entries or something like that. Having made content is tremendously valuable. You're going to have a tailored resume, or probably a few tailored resumes. You're going to have a polished and complete LinkedIn profile. And you're going to have a GitHub covered in merry little green squares that shows that you are a serious data person. You're going to have 10 to 30 new productive connections, depending on your hit rate and how much you devote yourself to the kind of art and science of personal connection and networking. 10 to 30 productive connections if you're putting out 10 connection requests a day. You're going to have an entry-level certification documented that you can pin on your profile in something. So what I recommend is, hey, you have a 30-day plan to earn the Alteryx Designer Core or the Tableau Desktop or the Power BI PL300. It's a bit difficult to do in 30 days, but could be done, especially if you're already a Power BI person. Okay. So highly recommend that you have a specific and time-bound goal to earn something, some shiny bauble for your LinkedIn profile in 30 days. And you're going to have one new book finished. So for those of you that don't tend to read books, well, that might be an accomplishment in and of itself. For those of you that tend to read, like fantasy books and stuff like that, well, maybe this is the first nonfiction book you've read in a while. That's going to help you out. I highly recommend that book be Reverse the Search if you are currently hunting for a job. And trust me, Madeline Mann doesn't know who I am and doesn't pay me jack. All right. It's just that good of a book and it's that useful. Okay. So all of that to say, folks, I hope that this provided you some value. For those of you that are still watching, you've gone through this marathon, props to you. I'll probably do some shorter content based on some of the individual concepts herein. But I hope that this was worthwhile for you. And please jump in the comments. Tell me, do you agree? Do you disagree? Are there things that I could have put in here that you think are better than these 5? I can be proven wrong. I can be trained. You can teach an old dog new tricks. I did recently turn 49 years old. Oof, where does the time go? But I'm proof positive you can do this at any age. And so, yeah, what I would say is give me a comment. What would you like to see going forward? Would you like to see any of these topics expanded on? I am all ears. I need content ideas just as much as anybody else. So yeah, let me know what you think. And if you stuck it out this far, please like and subscribe the video. And with that, let me stop sharing real quick so my exit is not too awkward here. But with that, my friends, Semper Fidelis, and I will talk to you later.